Hello, I'm Sky Matsuhashi, founder of SmartPokerStudy.com, the place for poker players who are always striving to be better today than they were yesterday. Poker people, in yesterday's bonus episode number 43, I interviewed Alex Assassinato Fitzgerald, and we discussed his new webinar, The Professional's Mindset, his upcoming book, The Myth of Poker Talent, and he dropped some MTT strategy bombs on us. Hey, poker people. Welcome to another Friday, the best day of the week. Not because I have my bulletproof coffee in front of me, nor because this is a Q&A, but because it's Friday, foo! Yep, Friday means the weekend, and I cannot wait until my cheat day tomorrow. You know, every Saturday is my chance to eat what I want, and here I come, pizza and gallons of ice cream. And I'll probably toss in a few Coronas as well. Cool beans, on to the show. We've got 5 questions today, and they're actually all about completely different things, which is great. You know, there's something in this episode for everybody. Please make sure you go to the show notes page at smartpokerstudy.com/pod44 for everything mentioned today. All right, this first question comes from Reamer.
All right, it's the bottom of the 5th.
Joseph R. Cooper?
A single man on first.
Are you Joe Cooper?
Cut the crap, Squeak. You know who I am.
Gentlemen, this form authorizes me to enter onto your property and terminate services forthwith until all delinquent payments have been generated.
What? Dude, he's here to shut off the gas. Wait, dude, you work for the gas company now?
Gentlemen,
Double! Guy on 2nd and 3rd.
is your canine locked up and or safely secured within your domicile?
Yeah, he's at the vet getting his claws removed.
And if you'll excuse me.
Dude, does it just suck being you?
I love that. Does it just suck being you? That's got to be one of my favorite quotes of all time from one of the funniest movies ever. If you don't know what that is, that's Basketball. And I know this movie was despised by the critics, and a lot of you might not care for it either. But man, I freaking loved it. You know, Matt Stone and Trey Parker. I love South Park for one thing, but they were great in this movie, and I laugh my ass off to this day every time I watch it. And I recommend it to every comedy fan out there. Watch Basketball today if you haven't. And if you saw it before and you didn't like it, watch it again and laugh your ass off. Alrighty, question 2 right here. This one comes from Dennis. It's more of a request than a question, but he said, I left a review on iTunes yesterday. I really like the format of the show right now. How about an episode on how to study using Flopzilla? I'm just getting the hang of using it, but I'm sure there are better ways to use it more efficiently than I am. Dennis. All right, well, thank you very much for the email, Dennis. And that's actually a really good idea. I've been thinking about that for a while because I use Flopzilla a whole lot. I want to get better at it as well, and I think creating some Flopzilla videos would be a very good use of my time. And for you students out there wanting to learn poker better, Flopzilla is a great program. You can learn a lot from using it. And but I think it would have to be a podcast with a video component as well. So I think I would have to discuss Flopzilla and then maybe refer the listeners to the show notes to watch a few videos. But, that's kind of tough. Actually, I think I'll just have to create some Flopzilla videos where I demonstrate how to use the software for various things. Like, one could be about creating your own ranges, one about how to range opponents through the streets, one about using the hotness meter, one about changing the board cards on the turn and river, and how those affect equities. There's actually so many ways to go about making some videos. I bet you I can make 20, 30 videos just on Flopzilla. But it is also visual, so maybe I could just plug each video on the podcast as I post it in YouTube. Oh, yep, I'll do that. Look for my first Flopzilla video next week. And, actually, quick decision. Okay, my first Flopzilla video will be a newsletter exclusive next week. Yepers, great idea, Dennis. Okay, for the listeners, in case you don't know, I have a weekly newsletter for the Smart Poker Study podcast, or for the Smart Poker Study blog. And in each newsletter, I give out an exclusive piece of content that you can't find anywhere else. And this next Wednesday, the exclusive piece of content will be a Flopzilla usage video. So in order to see it, you'll have to join the newsletter. Just go to the show notes page at smartpokerstudy.com/pod44 to sign up, in the sidebar or within the post itself. And that's an awesome question. Thanks for the email, Dennis. I appreciate it. Okay, question 3 comes from Steve, and actually it's 2 questions in one. So I'll read the first, then I'll answer it. Then I'll read the second, and I'll answer that as well. So Steve says, "Hi Sky, here are a couple of questions for your podcast. Question 1. How do you play against someone who at a 1-2 no-limit table, so $1, $2, whether it's a limp or a raise pre-flop, or a player at the table always calls the bet, then post-flop, check calls down to the river? Alrighty, so I'll answer this first question, then I'll get to the second. This is a poker station that you're referring to here, Steve. These guys call down as low as bottom pair and any possible draw, which of course includes all backdoor draws and weak low draws and gut shot straight draws as well. And they call this down all the way because they don't believe you or they want to get lucky. Against these guys, you've got to only value bet, never bluff. I'll say that again. Against the poker stations, only value bet, never bluff. You know he's going to call, so don't bet if you don't want him to call. The good thing is they'll let you know if they've got a great hand or even a good hand because they're betting and raising and you can just fold to them quite easily. I've said it before, but folding when you know an opponent only bets when strong is a way to exploit his uncharacteristic aggression. Alrighty, so question number 2. How do you play against a player that will call a raise pre-flop, then make a bet, get raised, then shoves all in? This is at a 1-2 no-limit table as well. Alrighty, for this second question, in this situation, I'm really only calling with a very strong flopped hand, unless I've seen showdowns and I know he can do this very light as a bluff. Often, though, you'll see plays like this from nut flush draws and sets or 2 pair hands or even aces. You know, these guys are either going for max value and they don't know any other way to extract it, or they think their draw can be very good, like the nut flush draw, and they're willing to gamble to hit those 9 flush outs or the full house outs if they've got a set or 2 pair. So what you've got to do is make note of these players, these types of players, and act accordingly in the future. Let's say, quote-unquote, Trappy Tom here. Let's say Trappy Tom does this, and you open with jacks. You know Trappy Tom will call with any pocket pair, and is capable of playing this way. He calls you, and you see a flop of deuce 4-6 rainbow. He donk leads. Now, you have a choice. You know that he's trappy like this, so you can, or do you want to get it in here with jacks or not? That's up to you. This is where you need to make your decision. He started his trap by donk leading here. If you do want to get it in, go ahead and raise him, then snap call his shove. You know, just be expected for that 3-bet shove by him. And if you think he only does this with a set, then call his donk lead and play the turn, or fold if you're convinced he only does this with the nuts. You know, in the movies, you'll often hear one character tell another, "You know that's a trap, right?" And the dude says, "I know." Then he goes off, springs the trap, but then his own plan kicks in and he wins the day. So if this is a value trap or a bluff that he sets, then don't step into it unless you want the trap sprung. So thank you very much for those 2 questions, Steve. Question number 4 comes from Ruben. I was wondering if you had a good pre-flop hand chart for middle and late stage sit and goes. Most of the time when I play, I get 3rd or 4th. Or if you had any advice on how to play during late stages. Well, thank you so much for this email, Ruben. I have some sit and go related articles on the website, and you can find them at smartpokerstudy.com/category/sit and goes. Or you could just go to the show notes and click the link there. And I do have to apologize to Ruben, as I answered this a few days ago via email, and I told him a new Sit and Go article would be posted by now. Well, I dropped the ball on that, and I feel like a real schlemiel for that. But once again, I've been spurred into action. I'll have this new article posted, which is about late stage play by tomorrow, Saturday the 12th. But just to give an answer for now, I don't have pre-flop hand ranges for middle or late stage play, as this is where the push-fold game comes into play. I stick to my early stage ranges. Then I constrict it when it comes to calling all-ins on the bubble, and I expand it for pushing all-in myself. So check out my article. It's called Sit and Go Middle Stage Strategy, and you could find a link to it within the show notes for this page. And within that article, there's a ton of great info within that post and links to other pieces of content that give you more info on late stage play. I recommend hitting all the links in the post, learning as much as you can from it, then watching the Sit and Go Endgame Tools video that accompanies the post and getting into that program for yourself. You'll learn a ton from it, Ruben, I guarantee. And then by tomorrow, I will have the late stage play article up. I promise. Alrighty, question 5 comes from Scott. This is the final question, and Scott says, "Thank you for the newsletter and the great podcast and videos. I found your videos after I purchased Poker Tracker and was looking for tutorials. Google led me to your site and got me started. That led naturally to the website and podcast. If I was to make a request for content, maybe more of a suggestion so that it feels less serving, a video about Poker Tracker leak finding in tournaments would be great. Poker Tracker is a great built-in leak finder feature for cash, but not for tournaments. Maybe that's the incorrect way to think about tournaments. I only play money on Poker Stars, and am trying to get a database to start to analyze my play and improve. My long-term goal is to start playing sit-and-go single tables at the WSOP and win my way into an event or two each year. Thank you again for all the great content. I enjoy it and appreciate your clear style of explanation of what can be complex topics." Scott Parker, from Scott Parker. Well, thank you so much, Scott, for the email. I'm glad you found the videos through the Google search and subsequently the podcast and the blog. So you mentioned self-serving requests, and that's actually exactly what I'm looking for. You know, my goal with this podcast and the website is to help people improve their games. And I know that your request is probably one that many people have, but just haven't voiced it yet. And I've actually been considering doing a slew of PT4 podcasts along with accompanying videos, and this will definitely be a topic I'll cover in them. For now, though, let me give you a little leak tracking you can do on your own in Poker Tracker 4 for tournaments. This can also be done for sit-and-goes as well. Like you had mentioned, you want to play more sit-and-goes. So the first thing, I've got 3 little suggestions here. Number 1 is avoid being a one-and-done player. So check out your flop cbet and your turn cbet percentages. Your turn cbet shouldn't drastically fall off from, say, like 70% on the flop to cbetting the turn only 30%. This tells all of your opponents that you give up on the turn when you miss, so they can stay in with crap and fire the turn when you check and auto profit from your play because they know when you check you don't have it. So that's number 1. The second leak busting that you can do for tournaments is set some pre-flop ranges, which are opening, calling, and 3-bet bluffing and value 3-bet ranges. Then review hands played by position after using these for a few weeks. And I am really surprised that people often don't have ranges set for this most frequent area of play, which is pre-flop. Every hand dealt sees pre-flop action. So take the time to set ranges for opening, calling opens, and 3-betting. And when it comes to 3-betting, you know, you want to have mostly value, but you want to throw in a few bluffs there. You want to keep your opponents guessing, of course. Skip a couple sessions of play to work on this if necessary, as I guarantee it will improve your overall play. Once your ranges are created, stick to them religiously for a few weeks, and at the end, review how well the ranges worked. Do you like using them? Are they effective? Were there hands you wish were in the range? Or hands in the range that now you think you should never play? You know, if you had King 7 suited in there and you lost a ton of money with it each time and you feel uncomfortable with it, maybe you want to take it out. Or, for example, maybe Jack 9 suited is not in there, but you love the hand, you know how to play it post-flop. Maybe you should add it in, you know? So take all you've learned and tweak your ranges as necessary to improve your game and make you more comfortable with your pre-flop choices. All right, so the third leak busting for tournaments would be game tape for bubble play. It's often difficult to review bubble hands if you didn't specifically take notes on when you reached the bubble and broke through it. You know, Poker Tracker 4 or Hold'em Manager doesn't tell you specifically the bubble started on this hand, and then when the 44th player busted, now we're in the money. You know, Poker Tracker 4 doesn't keep track of stuff like that. So the way to do it is either take notes on your own or use the game tape. And I recommend having your screen capture software ready, like Bandicam. And when you feel you've reached the bubble, and this can be anywhere from 1 to 100 players away from the money, just depends on how many people are in the tournament. And then hit record and start recording your play. Make sure to speak through your actions as you play. So when you review the hands later, you can get a sense of how your mindset and how your play was affected by the bubble. You know, a lot of us start to freak out at the bubble. We want to make the money, so we really tighten our ranges. We don't 3-bet, we don't shove, we don't open when we know we should. You know what I mean? We let that bubble scare us. So that's why you want to record this game tape and start voicing through your actions so that you can see, hey, wait a second, on this day, the bubble really scared me. I really wanted to win some money and I let it affect my play. So that's why I want you to record the game tape. And coupling the game tape with your Poker Tracker 4 software, you'll know exactly which hands to study with, or, in regards to your bubble play. And because you just purchased Poker Tracker 4, I want you to commit to doing hand history reviews once per day for 30 minutes or more. And do this for at least 2 weeks. This will really acquaint you with the program. I'd also recommend hitting YouTube and going through as many Poker Tracker 4 videos as you can. Each one will show you new ways to use it. So just follow along with them, with the coach in your database. And that's how I learned. Now most of my study time is just done on my own because I'm so familiar with it, And good luck to everything, or good luck to you there, Scott. Challenge! Here's my challenge to you for this episode. Before you make your next bluff cbet, think about the player you're trying to bluff. And if they are a station, don't frickin' do it. Don't fall into the trap of trying to bluff these fish off their hands. These guys call down super weak, so only bet for value. The easiest ones to bluff are fit or fold players. These guys are flop honest, so they fold when they whiff. There should be a reason behind every bet you make, and if you think your bet won't give you the intended results, then don't make it. Now it's your turn to take action and skippy-dippy do something positive for your poker game.
Now get it on.
Thank you so much for listening today, and thanks again to Reamer, Dennis, Steve, Ruben, and Scott for sending me those questions. If you haven't already visited it, check out the podcast show notes page at smartpokerstudy.com/pod44, and while you're there, sign up for the newsletter. Hit me with any feedback through the show notes page, or you can send an email to sky@smartpokerstudy.com, tweet me at smartpokerstudy, or post in the Facebook group at smartpokerstudy.com/discuss. And keep them questions coming in. I need them. Oh, and don't forget, Alex's webinar is tomorrow. It's called The Professional's Mindset. It's Saturday, March 12th. So get more info and sign up at smartpokerstudy.com/TPM for The Professional's Mindset. Don't miss it. All right, I've got a nice little review here from Jerry Monaco in iTunes. He titled it, A Poker Podcast for Those Who Want to Study 5 Stars. This is advice for those who want to work at learning the game. It's for those who want to learn to learn. Sometimes I want to ignore the short television show recaps and the music quotes, but that is relish for some and curds for others. But as far as advice on learning how to learn, Sky is thoughtful, honest, helpful, and self-reflecting. This podcast and Split Suit's Red Chip Poker podcast are the two podcasts I always listen to twice. The first time at the gym and the second time at my desk with notebook in hand. Thank you, Sky, and thank you for answering my emails. Absolutely, Jerry. Thank you for those nice words. And yeah, I know, maybe some people don't like the TV show recaps or, the other goofy stuff I do, but it's fun for me, so I'm going to keep doing it. Thank you, though. And you're right, Split Suit's Red Chip Poker podcast is killer. So if you guys have not picked that up yet, go ahead and subscribe and start listening. And I love when people say nice things, so if you want to let me know how you feel about this podcast, please leave an iTunes review. Alrighty, poker people, be sure to come back for the next episode, number 45, where I finally get to Dom's poker leak of difficulty in late-stage MTT play, with a little help from Alex Fitzgerald. Word of mouth is the best advertising, and a recommendation from you to your friends would be most appreciated. If you enjoyed our time together and learned a little something, please share it with your super hot friend. But don't tell her I'm married, we don't want to discourage her. Until next time, study smart, play much, and make your next session the best one yet.